Okay, so for anybody that's following along with this, basically I showed the um, micro garden, which is the garden bed, right? But I had some other tabs up here which showed a bed and version, and then it showed a shelter version. So I've gone in and I've deleted all of those. So now we're going to focus just on the micro garden. So I have tabs up here. I have a micro garden, and then we're going to, in fact, this is going to be the next video, is I'm going to show how I make the posts and how I draw the posts in SketchUp. And then eventually we'll get into a more complicated version, which would be how do we draw the panels themselves. And then we're going to go off into this tab up here, which is we're going to do a cut list and a sequencing for making the rails. Then we're going to go into drawing the styles, like I'll show how I draw this simple, well, for me it's simple anyhow, sorry about that. Anyhow, how I draw a style, like a 2.5 inch by 6 inch by 1 inch board, how I draw that. But then later we'll get into like how I represent and show what's going to be screws coming through that, because I need to know if I put in a 2.5 inch screw and it starts off in here somewhere, how far is it going to go, and then is it going to collide with something else that's inside there. And then later on I'll get into the clamping part. I don't think I'll go into like how I drew the clamps, but basically these are clamps. These are called R&Rs. I think it's rnrclamp.com or something like that. Anyhow, I'm not affiliated in any way, but I do draw them to show how they would end up being used to create and do the glue ups for the panel. So I won't get into that. At some point I might even get into showing how I draw the GRK screws, and because this is a huge part of all of my projects, and I get to a certain point on them and say, okay, that's good enough. And so rather than trying to get into any more detail on drawing a screw, at least I get the job done. It shows the length of the screw. It shows what type of head. It's kind of hard to zoom in on here, but then it's going to show where it goes into the top rail. And then there's going to be a counter bore there. So I'm representing that. And that's going to be done with a Forstner bit. And then you can see here how the hole, the smaller diameter hole, is continued through that, which is separate from, I'm going to hide this for a second. Oops, Control Z. It's separate from the style, but the style needs to pick up that screw as it comes through. So I'm going to show how I do that. And then we'll go into the rail caps. And again, that's these top pieces here. We'll go into the methods of joinery, and I'll show how, again, once I get to this point, I will have already drawn the posts. And so then I'm going to be taking those same posts and I'm going to be twisting and turning, and I'm going to be grabbing them, and I'll show how I might do this. So like I hit a speed key and then I can turn that around, etc., etc. I will go into that at some point, but further down the line, obviously. Hidden joinery, and then I'm going to go into materials again, because this is critical when I teach a class, is where are all these pieces going to come from. So rather than leaving the students up to the students to figure out the best use of a board, the materials, then I'm going to show that. And then the last, for those that are into CNC, I'll end up showing how I do my templates. Number one, how I draw them, which is 2D. And the reason I do that is because I need to transfer those into Vcarve, which is the software application for my CNC. I have a Piranha. I have two Piranha, Next Wave Piranhas. And so, but I create my templates in SketchUp, and then I transfer those into the CNC. And then there's an example somewhere here where I show the same. Here it is. Okay, so I show the same template, and as you can see now why I do 2D, and that's I also use a transparent color on them so I can see through, to allow me to show how that template is going to be placed on top of any particular piece for either routing or for punching holes with a hinge bit. So that's where we're at on it. Again, if you want to hang in here with me, the next thing I'm going to do is take it down to one of these posts. This will be the next video, which is drawing a post without the hardware on it, without anything else, just drawing a straight post. That's going to be coming up next, so hope you can join me.